There is a feeling she gets sometimes, sitting across from him, that she has never fully explained to anyone, not even to herself, in any language she'd be comfortable saying aloud. It isn't about him being older in the way people assume. It isn't about money or status or some need to be taken care of. It's something quieter than that, something closer to relief mixed with a kind of vulnerability she doesn't usually let herself feel around anyone. And she has never told him exactly what it is, partly because she doesn't have the words, and partly because some of what she feels embarrasses her a little, even though it shouldn't. What most people don't realize is that the inner experience of a younger woman with an older man is almost nothing like what public conversation assumes it to be. The popular narrative reduces it to either gold digging or daddy issues, two explanations so simplistic they miss almost everything that actually happens inside her. And what actually happens inside her, the real felt experience moment to moment, is far more complex, far more human, and far more revealing about what people genuinely need from each other than either explanation could capture. Stay with me here. The first thing she feels, and rarely says, is the strange sensation of her nervous system slowing down in his presence. Not boredom, the opposite of boredom, a kind of settling, the way water settles after it's been disturbed. She has spent so much of her life, especially in dating, managing a low hum of vigilance around men her own age, watching for inconsistency, bracing for unpredictability, performing a version of herself calibrated to keep things smooth. Around him, that hum quiets. And she notices the quiet specifically because of how rare it is. Think about it. We don't notice the absence of tension we've never had a chance to feel the presence of. The fact that she's aware of this calm at all tells you that calm has been scarce in her experience until now. There is something deeper happening here. The second thing she feels and almost never admits is a kind of grief disguised as gratitude. When she's with him, she sometimes catches glimpses of what it might have been like to have had this kind of steady, attentive presence earlier in her life, in relationships where it was conspicuously absent. This isn't always about her father, though sometimes it is. More often, it's about the accumulated weight of every emotionally unavailable interaction she's had to navigate to get here. And what she feels, in those quiet glimpses, is something bittersweet. Relief that she's finally experiencing it, mixed with something almost like mourning for the years she didn't have it. She rarely says this because it sounds, even to her, like she's making the relationship about something heavier than it needs to be in the moment. Now we move deeper. The third thing she feels is the disorienting experience of being truly listened to and not quite knowing what to do with it. Imagine spending years having your sentences finished for you, your opinions politely tolerated rather than genuinely considered, your inner world treated as decoration rather than substance. And then imagine someone actually pausing, actually absorbing what you said, actually responding to the content of your thoughts instead of moving the conversation back toward himself. This disorients her more than people realize. She sometimes finds herself talking longer than she intended, almost testing the edges of how much space she's actually allowed to take up, because some part of her doesn't fully believe the attention will hold. We'll come back to why that disbelief runs so deep. But before we go there, consider the fourth thing. She feels a strange kind of safety around disagreement that she has rarely experienced before. With him, she can push back, voice a differing opinion, challenge something he said, without the conversation collapsing into tension or wounded ego. What most people don't realize is that this specific kind of safety, the freedom to disagree without fear of destabilizing the entire dynamic, is one of the rarest experiences available in any relationship at any age. And when she encounters it for what may be the first time, it produces something close to disbelief. She tests it occasionally, almost unconsciously, just to confirm it's real. This is where things become interesting. The fifth thing she feels, and this one she would almost never say out loud because it sounds, even to her own ears, slightly shameful, is a sense of being chosen rather than competed for. In relationships with men her own age, she has often felt like one option among several being weighed, evaluated against others, kept slightly uncertain as a strategy. With him, she frequently feels something different, a directness, a clarity in how he expresses interest that doesn't require her to wonder where she stands. This certainty, this absence of games, produces a kind of relief in her body that she struggles to articulate, because admitting how much she needed it feels, to her, like admitting weakness. What happens next is important. The sixth thing she feels is a quiet pride that she also keeps to herself because expressing it feels somehow immodest. She feels proud, genuinely proud, to be chosen by someone whose life and character she actually respects, not because of his age or his accomplishments specifically, but because she's watched him move through difficulty and come out grounded rather than bitter. That kind of respect is different from admiration of status. It is respect for character, earned through observation rather than assumption. She rarely voices this pride directly because it can sound, out loud, like she's justifying the relationship to people who haven't asked her to. The seventh thing she feels is the discomfort of anticipating judgment before it even arrives. She runs scenarios in her head, conversations with friends or family who might raise an eyebrow, comments she half expects from strangers who do quiet math in public. This anticipatory bracing happens even in moments that have nothing to do with anyone else, even in private moments with him, because the social weight of the age gap doesn't disappear just because the two of them feel at peace with it. She rarely tells him how much energy this anticipation actually consumes, partly because she doesn't want him to feel responsible for managing her relationship with the outside world. Now we arrive at a deeper layer that connects several of these feelings together. The eighth thing she feels, the one that sits beneath almost everything else on this list, is the fear that what feels so stable now is somehow too good to be sustainable. Because she has spent so much of her life navigating instability in relationships, part of her has difficulty trusting that something this calm, this respectful, this genuinely reciprocal can simply continue without some hidden catch revealing itself eventually. This fear isn't really about him specifically. It's about her own history teaching her that good things tend to be temporary and that vigilance is the price of avoiding disappointment. She rarely names this fear directly because doing so would require admitting how much she has actually allowed herself to want this to last. This is where the deepest truth of the entire conversation comes into view. Here is what almost none of these 8 feelings have in common with the public narrative about why younger women are drawn to older men. None of them are about money, status, or some childish need to be rescued. Every single one of these feelings is actually about something far more universal, far more human. They are about the experience of finally encountering emotional stability after years of navigating its absence. The slowed nervous system, the quiet grief, the disorientation of being truly heard, the safety in disagreement, the relief of being chosen clearly, the quiet pride in mutual respect, the anticipatory bracing against judgment, the fear that stability might not last. All of these are not reactions to age. They are reactions to a quality of presence that happens to be more common, though never guaranteed, in men who have done real internal work over time. And this reveals something important that most conversations about age gap relationships completely miss. What younger women feel around older men, the parts they never say out loud, are not signs of dependency or immaturity. They are signs of a deep, often unmet human need finally being addressed. The need to feel genuinely safe, the need to be heard without competition, the need to be chosen without ambiguity. These needs exist in every person, regardless of age, but they are particularly acute in women who have spent years navigating relationships that failed to provide them. The question that opened this conversation, what do younger women feel around older men, was never really about age at all. The real question, the one that matters far more, is this. What kind of presence creates that feeling of safety in another human being? Because the answer has almost nothing to do with the years a man has lived and everything to do with the quality of person those years actually shaped him into. The stability she feels, the relief, the safety in disagreement, the clarity of being chosen, none of these require gray hair or decades of experience. They require a man who has done the work of becoming settled in himself, regardless of when in his life that settling happened. That is the truth beneath everything she never says out loud. She isn't responding to your age. She is responding to whether you have actually become someone capable of offering what stability requires. And that, unlike the years on a calendar, is something every man has the power to build. If this opens something for you, there is much more to explore. Stay close.